Welcome. Alright, so it seems like that's my little thing now. Oh, well, um, even though I live in the sunshine state, it rains a lot here. So you probably are able to hear the beautiful rain that's dropping down on us. If you are, great. Maybe it's a nice little relaxing background noise. If you're not able to hear it, well, it's just like every other episode. Okay, so this is vulnerability. That's what the name of the episode is. What does it mean to be vulnerable to you? Like, what does that mean for you? Just take a couple of seconds here. What is to be vulnerable? So, to me, being vulnerable is to show my flaws, to show that I'm not perfect, even though everyone knows that no one can be perfect, like no one. But it's to show my imperfections. That's one of them. It's to express myself, to share my thoughts, to share my beliefs, to share my values, which is exactly what I'm doing with you guys every day, is to be vulnerable. A big one for me is also to ask for help. That's something that I've been working on. I know my friends know that. It's very hard for me to ask help. I don't really do, or did. Let's say did, right? Because I've gotten so much better at it. And just simply for me is understanding that I'm not perfect, but I still deserve love, and I still deserve to be loved. Even with how vulnerable I am, even if I show you who I am, right? Like I still deserve to be loved. And that's kind of like vulnerability, like in a little quick summary for me. Like, what does that mean for me? Now, for you, of course, it may be different, or maybe it may be very similar to what I said. I know that before, being vulnerable meant that I was weak. Being vulnerable meant that I would ask for help, which is still one of them. But if I asked for help, or if I expressed to you a difficulty I was going through, then that means that I in some way was going to be needing you. So it wasn't going to be a want, but it was going to be needing you. And if I needed you, then that means that I would have to depend on you. Now, a lot of the times, it's very hard for us to be vulnerable if we have abandonment issues, which I'm raising all of my hands and my feet, because abandonment issues is something that I definitely had to deal with, and continue to kind of deal with it. You know, I still have to tell myself, like, hey, you're going to be okay. Hey, it's abandonment issues also come with the codependency, right? Like, so it's everything is so intertwined. Like, it's amazing to me how everything kind of connects with each other. But let's focus on vulnerability right now. So that's how it was for me before. It meant that I was weak, because if I had to ask for your help, then that meant that I'm gonna need you. What about if you left? Then what am I, and it had happened several times where you can ask people for help, but they don't show up, or they tell you no from the get-go, or they tell you yes, and then they don't follow through. And then you're left there like, bro, what do I do? It's a terrible situation to be in, right? Like, it's not cool. But eventually, as you keep working on yourself, you're going to start noticing that you feel more and more comfortable with being vulnerable. Being vulnerable, simply, like I mentioned, means that you are comfortable with expressing yourself. You're comfortable asking for help. And the reason you get more comfortable is because you're more sure of yourself. You know that you love yourself. So instead of seeking love and acceptance, right, or help, in this case from someone else, you know that you're going to be okay. You soothe yourself. You take care of yourself to the point that you're okay with asking for help. It's no longer a prideful thing. It's not an ego thing anymore. Like, you are comfortable with saying, hey, I need help with this. Can you help me with this? And then you are okay as well with them telling you no. Because a lot of the times, if we really dig deep into vulnerability, we are uncomfortable with that because we are not okay, we are not comfortable with someone telling us no, or someone just not showing up for us the way that we want them to, or the way, quote unquote, that we need them to, right? You are opening up yourself to exposure. You're literally, when you open yourself up, you're exposing yourself. And that is being vulnerable. But you have to understand that it's okay to be vulnerable, that you are going to be okay if no one can help you for the time being. I've had great friends that unfortunately they couldn't help me a lot of the times. They either had kids, they had their own stuff, they have their own businesses and companies, and they couldn't come and help me right at that moment. Did they check up on me afterwards? And they're like, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Like, I know that you called. I know. I stopped getting hurt when people would do that. And I understood. Look, these people, they're my friends, they're my family, they mean well. And if they really couldn't show up, then they couldn't show up, and that's okay. That's okay. Because guess what happened? I was okay too. I made it through. I had to sit down and I figured it out and I thought about it. But again, I don't ever feel like I'm alone. Maybe during those times, during the process of that, during that bridge, right? I felt like I was alone. But now looking back, I definitely noticed that God was always there guiding me. And those moments when I felt like I was very alone, like, how the heck am I going to do this? And I would literally just sit down and say, okay, brain, I need you to work with me because we have to figure this out on our own. And it would happen. I would figure it out on my own, right? Air quotes. But it wasn't really me. And again, that's my own experience. But I guess with this, we can go into the spiritual side of things. But just remember, you are loved. You're not alone. Whatever you're going through, I can assure you someone has already gone through that or is currently going through that as well. Okay? Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to ask for help. All right? The comments that I have, I'm going to leave the comments open. So, be free to share your stories. Be free to share how whatever I say made you feel, if it helped you, if it didn't, if, just, this is an open space and I want you guys to feel comfortable. And again, you are okay with being vulnerable here. Okay? So take a moment today to be vulnerable, even with yourself, right? Be vulnerable with yourself, be able to express yourself and say what you really feel. Say the things that you're going through, and maybe check in and try to see maybe if you can be vulnerable to someone else in your life. Okay? All right. Peace and love, yo. You guys can disconnect if you don't want to keep hearing about how me and the big dog upstairs talk to each other. That's fine. No offense taken. All right. Oh, started raining again. I don't know if you guys are able to hear this, but this is very soothing right now. Okay. Spiritual side. So as I was saying, even though during the process I did feel alone a lot of the times, I noticed the guy was always there. And I noticed how he would always use my vulnerability for good. Like anything that I would be going through, like he was right there. I would always somehow figure it out, right? Which it wasn't I, it was him working through me. It was the little inner voice that I would be sitting down making plans and trying to see, well, how do I pay for this? How do I, and it would come up and I'm like, oh man, that's genius, good. And at the time, I wasn't so connected with God to the point that I thought my brain was doing that. But as I kept going, it also taught me that my most vulnerable times were the ones where God actually showed up the most. Where he was showing me, I'm not leaving you alone. I'm not letting you do this on your own. I got you. If you just connect with me, if you just be vulnerable with me, talk to me, express yourself. What are you feeling? Are you feeling anger right now? Are you feeling hurt because you feel alone and no one's helping you? Come to me, talk to me. I got you. And that's how it was. Like, that's what I've experienced. So being vulnerable in the spiritual side for me also meant like humbling myself. Again, I keep saying that, humbling myself, because that was a big thing for me. I had to handle a lot of things on my own at a very young age. I had to figure it out on my own. And, he became someone that I could trust. A lot of people just take God as God, right? But I took I took God as my big brother. I know that I have a big brother, and anyone that's close to us knows that our relationship hasn't been the best. Maybe from the outside doesn't seem like it, but now we're more adults, we've healed more, we're trying to repair that. But where I'm trying to go at, right, is that there are people in your life, big brother, mom, aunts, grandparents, and I'm saying all of this for me, my own experience, right? They didn't really show up the way I needed them to, in a healthy way, right? And a lot of the times it felt like no one was there. And it was really God that took the form. He took all of those spaces. He took the big brother. I would play it by myself, and I'll pretend like I did have a big brother playing with me, and it was a healthy mom, just that was open with her love, and she was gentle, and I had aunts that wouldn't be slapping me around, that would actually hug me. Or so don't be afraid to open yourself up and say, God, I need you in these spots in my life, because I do want to feel like I have a community, right? And sometimes it takes some time to have a community, okay? And just because growing up I didn't have, right, like those people loving me in a healthy way and protecting me, or it doesn't mean that I love them any less. A lot of them, we've been able to put in the work, and we're at a great place now, and that's thanks to God, because I've been able to forgive and look beyond the pain. So I highly, highly, highly recommend you trusting him with your vulnerabilities. I highly recommend, because it worked for me. I'm never going to tell you to do something that I haven't done. And if I do, I'm going to tell you I haven't done this. So I don't know if it's going to work. I'm always going to be very straightforward and tell you, exactly what it is. And in my own experience, guys, try it out. Be vulnerable with him, okay? He's really the only one that's not going to leave you ever. Even if it may feel like it, he hasn't left you. He's there. What I noticed is that those moments that I thought he had left me, it was sometimes I needed to be able to just grow that courage myself and keep going. And then sometimes my connection was just off. I wasn't really clearing myself and opening myself to be able to listen to him. So remember, our vulnerabilities are what makes us stronger. In the end, those are the things that really heal us, make us strong, let us forgive others. Because after we do that work, we see the vulnerabilities in other people. And we kind of see them with kinder eyes. We understand a little bit more. Why didn't show up for us the way that we wanted them to? Because they hadn't even shown up for themselves. So how can they show up for us if they hadn't even done that for them? They just simply didn't know how to. All right. Love you guys. Take care. Peace and love. I know you can do it. What? I know you can do it. I believe in you. Let's keep going. Okay? All right. Love y'all.